3 years ago, a woman who bore an uncanny resemblance to my late wife saw a photo of her and said, "Bob, could your wife be? My name is Bob, and I'm a 38-year-old employee at an ID company. I met my wife, Emily, 12 years ago through a friend's introduction. Emily had lost her parents when she was young and was raised in foster care. Perhaps because of the loneliness she felt growing up without a family, she was incredibly compassionate and kind to others. She had a natural warmth and an amazing ability to connect with people, and I quickly fell in love with her. One day, after a night out with friends, I found myself alone with her by what seemed like coincidence. I mustered up the courage to confess my feelings. "Emily, I like you. Will you go out with me?" I stammered. Blushing, she replied, "I like you too, Bob." From that moment on, we began dating, and 10 years ago, I proposed, and we got married. Life with Emily was like a dream. We both worked and shared household chores. Although Emily wasn't the best cook, her curry was incredibly delicious. Today we're having curry. Yum, it's fantastic. Can I have seconds? I'd say. "Aren't you eating too much?" She'd tease, but the meal was too good to resist. I cooked sometimes too, and she would always exaggerate how delicious it was. On weekends, we would clean the house together, go shopping, and rent our favorite movies to watch. The last scene was amazing, I'd say, and Emily would agree. We shared a love for the same films and got along so well. Although we struggled to have children, we were a happy couple living contentedly. But our happiness was shattered on a swelteringly hot summer day 3 years ago. Emily, who worked in sales for an insurance company, was out on her rounds. While crossing at a green light, a drunk driver in a truck sped through and struck her. She died instantly. Devastated by the loss of my wife, I spent days crying, too grief-stricken to even go to work. Why did Emily have to suffer such a terrible fate? How cruel can life be? I wondered. The thought of her pain, being hit by such a large truck, tormented me. The more I thought about it, the more my grief and emptiness overwhelmed me like a flood of tears. Every night, I drowned my sorrows in alcohol, weeping while looking at her photos and reminiscing. Eventually, I had no more paid leave and had to return to work to support myself. I considered ending my life to follow Emily, but I knew she wouldn't have wanted that. I had to keep living to preserve her memory. I thought keeping busy with work might help distract me from my grief. So I threw myself into my job, and 3 years quickly passed. During that time, I worked tirelessly, handled a massive workload, earned a promotion, and became a reliable manager, finding some fulfillment in my career. Then one day she joined the company. "I'm Kate, nice to meet you," she said. She was a new contract employee in our department. I stared at her face intently. Bob, is there something on my face?" she asked, looking confused. "No, sorry, it's nothing," I replied. Her face, it was the spitting image of Emily's, almost as if they were twins. But she must be in her early 20s. Emily would have turned 37 this year if she were still alive. Could it be a case of twins or sisters? Or was it just a remarkable resemblance to a stranger? "Katie, please use that empty seat over there. Maria, sitting next to you, will show you the ropes," I said, trying to shake off the strange feeling. I instructed her, trying to conceal my pounding heart with a calm demeanor. "Understood," she replied. Even her voice seemed eerily similar. Could such a coincidence be possible, or was I simply longing for my wife so much that I was seeing illusions? I began to think I might be imagining things, but the more I saw Kate, the more she resembled Emily. Her voice, the way she spoke, even her quirky laugh and the way she sneezed. It was hard to believe she was just a look-alike. Maybe she's a relative, I thought. That had to be it. I decided to ask Kate if she knew anything about my wife. One day, I called her to a meeting room, saying I had something important to discuss. "Bob, what did you want to talk about?" she asked, curious. "Kate, there's something I'd like to ask you. Do you know this woman?" I showed her a photo of Emily on my phone. Her eyes widened in surprise. "This woman, she looks just like me." "Who is she?" "This is my wife. Unfortunately, she passed away in a traffic accident 3 years ago." "I'm so sorry for your loss," she responded, then hesitated before asking, "Your wife, could her name possibly be Emily?" Hearing her mention Emily's name, my heart skipped a beat. "Yes, that's right. Emily. How do you know her name?" "Then her maiden name must be Abbott, right?" she guessed, leaving me stunned as she correctly identified Emily's maiden name. Kate, what exactly is your relationship with my wife? I asked, bracing myself for her answer. She uttered words I never expected to hear. I am Emily Abbott's daughter. Daughter? I echoed in disbelief. Unbelievably, Kate was the child Emily had given birth to before we met. I was given up for adoption soon after birth and was later adopted by my current parents. I only learned about it when I became an adult and needed my family register for a passport for an overseas trip. That's when I first found out I was adopted, she explained. Her adopted parents had later revealed the truth about her origins when she confronted them. Emily, my wife, had become pregnant at the young age of 16. The older man she was dating at the time had abandoned her upon learning of the pregnancy. Emily, who had lost her parents young and grew up in a facility, had no one to confide in. She became increasingly isolated as her pregnancy advanced until a staff member at the facility noticed. After giving birth, the baby was placed for adoption through an agency with a couple who couldn't have children of their own, and so Kate became the adopted daughter of her current parents. But Emily had never mentioned having a child to me, and she kept it a secret because she gave Kate up for adoption, thinking she was no longer her child. Or maybe she feared how I would react. I would never know what Emily was thinking, but learning that Emily had a child after all those years of us struggling to have one stirred a strange feeling inside me. Emily was no longer in this world, but her genes had indeed been passed on to the next generation. This thought nearly moved me to tears. So, you're Emily's daughter. I never imagined meeting you here. I'm glad you told me, I said, looking into Kate's face, the spitting image of my wife. She might not be my child, but she was the daughter of the woman I loved. I sincerely hoped she would live a happy life. Bob, I have a favor to ask. If you don't mind, could you tell me about your wife? Even though I knew I was adopted, I always thought my real parents were my current foster parents, so I didn't care about the birth parents who abandoned me. But now, I want to know my roots. Of course, I said. It's natural to want to know what kind of person your birth mother was. That evening, I took Kate out to dinner, and we spent hours talking about my memories of Emily. I shared stories about her hobbies, like her love for movies and her favorite dishes, and described the environment in which she grew up, the books she read, and the phrases she often used. Kate listened intently, soaking in every detail. Actually, I love movies too, she said, her eyes lighting up. I watch at least 2 a week, and I love that movie as well. What a coincidence. Curry is my favorite dish to make too. I guess we really are similar in some ways. Later that day, Kate asked if I could take her to visit Emily's grave. As she laid flowers in front of the headstone, she spoke softly. Thank you for giving birth to me, Mother. Thanks to you, I'm very happy and joyful now. My adoptive parents are wonderful people, and I'm so glad I was born. Hearing those words, I couldn't hold back my tears. I wondered if Emily could hear her. She may have regretted having a child at such a young age, but now that child was standing before me, expressing gratitude for her life. I wished Emily could have met her, even just once, while she was still alive. From that moment on, I felt a strong desire to support Kate in any way I could, to be there for her as I couldn't be for Emily. But for now, I was just her boss, so I resolved to be the best boss I could be for her. With this newfound motivation, I threw myself into my work with even more enthusiasm. However, one day, a shocking scene caught my eye. Kate, can I have a word? Max, the department manager, called her over. She walked to his desk, and as he showed her some documents, I was horrified to see him quickly pat her buttocks while giving her work instructions. What are you doing? Stop it, Kate protested in a stifled voice. Max, acting as if nothing had happened, replied, What are you talking about? I jumped up furious. Max, what do you think you're doing? Where do you think you're touching? I didn't do anything, Max said defensively. You're not getting away with this, I said, my voice firm. I'm going to report this to HR. What? You dare oppose me, your superior, for the sake of your subordinate? I don't care what happens to you. Max was livid. I knew I was risking my job, but I couldn't stand by and do nothing. Kate and I went to the HR department together, and later that day, Max was given a stern warning and transferred to another department. Oh, thank goodness, Kate said, relieved. Thank you so much for standing up for me. I was in trouble because Max was so persistent. According to Kate, Max had been persistently asking her out to dinner and even threatening her job if she refused. I was so glad he was transferred. By the way, you should have talked to me about it earlier, I said gently. I'm sorry, Kate replied. I didn't want to cause trouble for you. From now on, don't hesitate to consult me about anything, I said. Kate smiled happily. Thank you. In that moment, I thought, I want to protect that smile, I may not be her father, but I want to do everything I can for her. After that, I recommended Kate for a full-time position, advocating for her to senior management and HR. Thanks to that, Kate was successfully hired as a permanent employee of our company. This meant I could continue to watch over her closely, and I felt a sense of relief. 2 years later, Kate got married to a male colleague she had met at a company social gathering. Of course, as her boss, I attended the wedding. She looked stunningly beautiful in her bridal gown, and the entertainment at the reception included a touching movie showing her childhood photos. When she came to my table during the candle service, I said, "Congratulations, be happy." She tearfully replied, "Thank you, Bob. You're like a second father to me. Please keep watching over me." Of course, I said, struggling to hold back tears of joy. I wondered if Emily could see her daughter now, so happy in her bridal splendor. "Tom, please take good care of Kate," I said, lightly patting the groom on the shoulder. "Of course, I will definitely make her happy," Tom replied with confidence. He was a bright and energetic young man, competent at work and well-regarded, so I felt at ease in trusting Kate to him. I also gave a speech as her boss, sharing anecdotes about her hardworking and diligent nature. Afterward, we took a photo together, which would become a lifelong treasure. I even placed it on Emily's memorial altar. About a year later, Kate had a baby and sent me a photo of a tiny infant with a bright red face, Emily's grandchild. I felt as happy as if my own grandchild had been born. "Emily, your daughter is now a wonderful mother," I said to the photo of my wife as I did every day. "Let's keep watching over them, ensuring their family remains happy forever." As I spoke, I felt as if Emily smiled gently back at me.